PowerPoint presentation. I recently just built a brand new computer to specifically do some stock trading and video editing. So it's kind of a new setup and it's on Windows 10. So new PowerPoint system, this is going to be the layout moving forward, but let's get right into the video. So financial statements. When I talk about financials, the three documents I'm talking about are your balance sheet, your income statement, and your cash flows. Those are the numbers. Those are the basically nuts and bolts of your business. That's what everything gets summed up to, is how much money did you make, how much cash is in the bank, and what does your balance sheet look like? These are the numbers that make up your business. Now, how do you find these numbers? Well, there's three different ways. One, you can go to the company website. They're almost always posted there. Two, there are certain filing organizations that take in these financials. So everybody in Canada has to submit to an organization called SEDAR. Everybody in America has to submit to an organization called EDGAR. They're basically acronyms for big, long, fancy terms that say we're going to take all your financials and verify them for the CRA. The third way you can do it is through Yahoo Finance or other websites that are actively tracking those companies. So you should never have a tough time finding them. And the reason you would want to find them is because that is going to give you the financial performance of these companies over time. Now, there's two types of financials that we're going to focus on and that you're really going to want to look out for. They are basically categorized as 10K and 10Q. The reason they are named that is because those are the regulation numbers in the basically law that they have to, requires them to submit. So their acronym is 10K and 10Q just because of legal standards, not for any other reason. But the difference here is that the 10K report is the annual report. So this is the once a year big daddy filing that the company has to submit to the SEC, to EDGAR, to SEDAR, whoever it is, and basically say, here is all of our financials, here is all of our reporting, here is basically everything you need to know about the company. And this goes out as basically proof that they're accurately reporting and for all of the investors to know about. Now, the quarterly report is a little bit smaller and it's a little bit different. The financials are at the top of the report as opposed to the middle of the report in the 10K. And it's usually generally a smaller report and it breaks things down on a quarterly basis, whereas the 10K is a yearly basis. So small differences. Every company will report 3 10Qs and then 1 10K throughout a year. And they usually come 1 to 2 months after the actual date of the quarter end. So the quarter ends on December 30th. Your financials and your 10K or 10Q report might not be out till January or February. End of January, end of February, somewhere in that range usually. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to show you exactly how to find these different things. So the first thing, we're going to look at Tesla just because it's an easy one. And the best way to find these is to actually just type in the company and then just go investor relations and you can see investor overview. Now I'm doing this pretty much live here. So you've got basically everything you would ever want to know about the company right here. And if you go to financials and accounting, you can see 2019 Q4. This is the Form 10K. So this is the annual filing. You can see we did Q2, Q3, Q3, and then Q4. That was the end of the year. That's going to be their 10K report. The rest of these are all going to be, look at 10Q. So that's the difference here. That's the separation between them. Now, if we go to the Form 10Q, you can open this up and there's different things that you can look at. We're just going to look at it as view HTML so we can look at it online. And this is what it looks like. It's a lot of writing. It's not super appealing. It's not something that you're probably going to enjoy looking at, but this is where all the nuts and bolts of your company is. So we look at Tesla Incorporated, and the first thing we're looking at is their balance sheet. So on the left-hand side here, we have their assets broken down into current assets and basically long-term assets. So current assets right here, basically cash and money coming in, and then all the long-term assets that they own, and then liabilities on the other side, short-term and long-term as well, and equity, for a total of 32 basically billion on either side, it looks like. So the balance sheet is basically a snapshot in time, and this is where it tells you how many assets the company has and what they're worth, what the liabilities are on that company, and what the shareholders' equity breakdown looks like, and how much net profit that company has generated. Secondly is a consolidated statement of operations, or the income statement. So this is how much money was brought in during a specific time period. In the Q reports, the quarterly reports, it's going to be over a 3-month time period. So when we look at the timelines over here, you can see 3 months ended September 30th, 2019 compared to 2018. It's on a quarterly basis. You can see revenue, cost of revenue, gross profit, operating expenses. All of the information you would want to know is right in here. We're going to break down in another video what we're actually looking at in those, but this is how you find them. So right here, you can see the income statement, and then just below it, we should see redeemable cash flows right there. So statement of cash flows, this is where they spent their money. This is what they did with the money that came in and how they used it to generate basically revenue and income. So that was the first way. That was looking at the company website. The second way is going to Yahoo Finance. So we go to the basically main message here, the main page. We type in Tesla. You can see Tesla Inc. right there. And we can come across all the way over to the financials, and we can see different things here. So what we're looking at right now is the income statement, the same thing we looked at in the last report. We can see the trailing 12 months. So this is basically the last year. And then you can see it broken down on a quarterly basis. Yearly basis here. And if we switch over, we can see it on a quarterly basis. So lots of options. Same thing with the balance sheet and the cash flow statement. So again, all three financials that you would want to look at. And the last thing we're going to do is look at Edgar filings. So you type it into Google, really simple. We're going to type in the company name. This is what Edgar stands for. I don't know, it's somewhere in here. But you go Tesla in your company name, and you can see Tesla Inc. right here. This is the one that we're looking for. So you click on them, and you can see that their last filing, you can see all of their filings in here. Now, when I say filings, this is basically anytime a public company does something, if they hire a new executive, if they let go of a board of directors, if something changes drastically, if they issue stock options, they have to file all of that with the SEC and the Edgar basically filings. And so where that's all captured is in here. And so when you see SC 13G or 8K, these are all just different documents that the company had to file. And the ones that we're looking for, the 10K and the 10Q, because they are the most important and they provide us with the financials. The rest of them are base filing documentations. You want to look at it in detail, but there's no way you can look at every single one for every company. So we're going to scroll down. We see 10K right there. We click on the documents. We can see 10K description right there. Click on this, and it's going to open up basically the 10K document. Now, the 10K is much bigger than the 10Q, and your financial statements are located somewhere in the middle. They're usually in that graph format, so that's what we are going to be looking for. And we're going to be looking for the consolidated statement of income, the balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows. So selected consolidated. No, we don't want anything selected. Selected means so just pulling out certain numbers and using that. We want the full breakdown. So I'm going to keep scrolling. I'm almost at the middle of the document here. Boom. Consolidated balance sheets. That's what we're looking for. This is the big home run. Now, again, a balance sheet is a snapshot in time. This is where the company was at on a specific date, specifically their year end. So in this case, they had $6 billion in cash, $246 million in restricted cash, $12 million in total current assets, and $34 million in total assets. You can go through and see the liabilities. You can also see the consolidated statement of operations. So revenue, total revenues right here. In 2019, Tesla did $24 billion, $578 million. Pretty good number. Pretty cool to see for a little startup company like that. And you can really see all of these numbers. And then cash flow should be under here, right here. So there you go. We've now looked at finding the financials on the Edgar website, on Yahoo, and on the company website. So we're just going to go back to our little presentation here, and we're going to finish this off with a summary. So all public companies, anybody that you can trade, you can find those financials on a quarterly basis. They usually come out 15 to 45, sometimes 60 days after the end of the quarter. You never really know, but they are announced usually a couple weeks in advance of when they're going to release them, usually before or after the market opens or closes. Secondly, all investors must have access to the same information. That is a rule of the stock market. So if a company releases a piece of information, all investors have to have access to that information. It has to basically be public knowledge. In the event that it is not public knowledge, that is considered insider trading. So what that's great for is somebody starting out, and all of us individual investors, we should have access to the same information as all of the other traders. We may not have access to the same softwares and formulas, but we should have access to the same information. And when you have information that somebody else can't get, such as insider information or information that's not public, that's considered insider trading. And you really need to avoid that because it's a slippery slope and you can get caught up in so much trouble. So that's what insider trading is when you have information that is not public. Lastly, the 10K and the 10Q. The 10K is the long format yearly report, and the financials are in the middle of the report. The 10Q is a shorter format quarterly report. It comes out 3 times a year, quarter, and then year end. And the financials are usually at the top of that report. So check out the next video where we're going to talk about what the financials actually are and what we're looking for in general. Thanks, and stay tuned.